Welcome to the Wellness Rebel Show, where you reclaim your health and tap into your body's healing power. I'm your host, Fatima, here to empower you with the knowledge and tools to take charge of your well being. Whether you want to boost energy, improve mindset, or unlock vitality, this is your go to source for practical advice and inspiration. It's time to step into your power and live a life of health and freedom. Welcome to the revolution. All right, today I want to cover health anxiety. If you've never heard of health anxiety, it's basically just the anxiety that surrounds a person when they're starting on their health journey. I've seen a lot of moms complain about it, especially when they're starting on a low tox journey, when they're just starting to remove the toxins from their life. And then I also hear other moms or practitioners basically where they're doing all the functional lab tasks that they can now order, and then they just keep finding something wrong with their health every time they do a different kind of lab test. Now, why is this happening? We're getting so much information all at once. We are not meant to get this much information at our fingertips. The internet, our phones, we're just all this information is very easily accessible, and it's causing people anxiety around what's right, what's wrong, what's true, what's not. And it doesn't help that there's so much conflicting information out there. And then we tend to either freeze and not do anything about it, or we get so anxious that we can't sleep over something. Now, how do we avoid this? The key to avoiding health anxiety is to stop comparing your journey with others. Each one of us have our own journeys, and so when you're just starting out, your competition should be yourself, right? Who were you last month? Who were you last week? Who were you yesterday? What changes have you made from when you started learning all this information? There's no perfect way to do it. We just have to take it one step at a time. One small step leads to 1,000 miles. That will be the start of your journey. You can do one swap a day, one swap a week, one swap a month, one swap a year. Whatever works for you and your family and your budget. Don't ever get into this trap where you have to do everything all at once. Now, it's different for my own journey. I cleaned up my lifestyle way back before I had kids. I wasn't living with my partner. So I was able to have the freedom to get rid of all the toxic products that I was using, to change my diet, change my lifestyle and all of that, right? And that time, I also wasn't on social media. I don't know if social media was already big back in 2010, maybe, but I wasn't on social media. I wasn't following all these influencers who are, sharing their journey, sharing about products and all these biohacking tools. In fact, I didn't even do any kind of detox procedures when I started cleaning up my lifestyle. I did do one coffee enema, and that was kind of interesting. And now I've dabbled back into it, but obviously I'm pregnant, so I'm not doing any coffee enemas or any detox and like saunas. Although I can use a single bulb, like a single red light bulb, to shine on my lower back if my lower back does hurt, or somewhere else in my body, but just not my belly where the baby's growing. But yeah, don't compare your journey with anyone else's. Your competition is yourself. See what your budget is. Do what works for you. You don't have to swap everything all at once, and you also don't have to throw out everything all at once. Sometimes, yes, it's not sometimes. If you throw out everything all at once, it is wasteful. I was tempted to donate my toxic products to, somewhere else like shelters and whatnot, but I also didn't feel good knowing that they were full of toxins and then passing that on to somebody else.
So I decided to throw them all away. So do what works for you, right? There's no like specific guidebook or rule book to follow. Now, if you do decide to use up everything first and then replacing it, then just know that, you're adding to your toxic load. So sometimes I would always say, though, if you can only throw out one thing in the beginning of your journey, and even if it's not used up, I would say throw out your antiperspirant, because it's, the aluminum in there, and then fragrance, the propylene glycol, and all the nasty chemicals in there. And it's been found that women, even men, are getting breast cancer on this quadrant near the armpits. And that's mostly from deodorant, antiperspirant, because deodorant does this a different thing, right? Deodorant, you can still sweat, so they're fine to use. Or if you don't want to do that, or if you're more free to get rid of more things all at once, I would read all the ingredients label and get rid of anything that has fragrance in it. So it would be, in a lot of households, it would be laundry detergent, it would be your dryer sheets, it can be in your cleaners, in your shampoo and conditioner, even in your makeup. But yeah, so just do what works for you. But to me, fragrance is really one ingredient that we all need to avoid, because it's a cocktail of chemicals and we don't know exactly what's in there. And a lot of them have been found to cause cancer, causes neurotoxicity. They're endocrine disruptors. So if your hormones are out of whack, it's best to get rid of them. Get rid of your plugins. Get rid of the candles that you have. If it's it has fragrance or artificial scents in it. Even soy candles and paraffin candles, I don't really love them. I tend to stick with 100% beeswax candles. They already naturally smell like vanilla. I think that's enough. Like, we have been kind of not brainwashed, but our brains have been trained to think that clean has to smell a certain way, but clean actually doesn't smell like anything. So that is the biggest mindset shift that needs to happen, is that clean doesn't smell like anything, right? Even trash bags now have fragrance. It's insane. Toilet papers, paper towels, so many things. So that is the one thing that I would get rid of first, if you're able to get rid of all the things that has fragrance. Otherwise, deodorant, or use up everything that you have, and then when you do, restock something, just make sure that it doesn't have any harmful ingredients. Now, ingredients are kind of hard to navigate, right? It takes time for you to really learn what ingredients to avoid and look out for. And so I would usually recommend using either Think Dirty app or the EWG app. Their Switch Natural app. That one's a paid app. It's $19.99. But to me, I feel like that's the most accurate and the most unbiased. But yeah, if you have $20 to invest in that, it's a great investment. What I usually do, well, obviously I already have my go-to products. So for someone new, you can always look ahead on somebody's website, on the company's website, to check the ingredients, and then you can check whatever is, like, looks off. You can check on the EWG website, or even campaign for safe cosmetics. Yeah, that's the one website that also has, kind of ingredient and education. And yeah, it takes time, it takes practice. In the beginning of my journey, I've been greenwashed a couple of times, and it's a gut punch, obviously, but we just go through this journey. We're all learning, and don't be hard on yourself and give yourself grace. But if you're just kind of like scanning through products really quickly when you're at the store and it's hectic because you have your kids with you, then look for fragrance or perfume. If it has that ingredient, put it back. Even when it says aroma or scents, right? I really prefer for a company to be transparent, and even though they're not required to list out everything that's in their fragrance. So let's say they say their fragrance is from essential oils. I'd still rather see them put down what essential oils they are or what compounds they are, because a lot of essential oils and a lot of these compounds are highly allergenic. And if you're trying to avoid it, it's better for you to, know if it's in the product that you're buying, right? And to me, the top thing that I look for in a company is transparency. I would rather see all the ingredients immediately. If it's an online store, it should be on their website. When you click ingredients, it should all be listed there. It shouldn't be key ingredients and then they're showing like the highlighted ingredients that are all natural, and then all of a sudden there's like a little line on the bottom that says full ingredients list, right? Sometimes they're hard to miss. Sometimes they're easy to miss, or they're not even there sometimes, and you have to email the company. That's what I do. I always email the company if the ingredients lists are not on the website. But yeah, fragrance, stop using it. Even so, especially if you're suffering from hormonal imbalances, that is really the top thing that you should get rid of. They don't even allow you to wear fragrance when you go into an IVF clinic because it is such a big hormone disruptor. Now, when it comes to food, how many ingredients? The top ingredients that I would always avoid are high fructose corn syrup. It's processed with mercury. That's one source of mercury toxicity. We always avoid artificial colorings and artificial flavors. Even natural flavors can be iffy, but sometimes that's kind of like part of my 20%. I do a lot of times email also the company what they derive their natural flavors from, because sometimes they are just from fruit and whatnot. But I would still rather really know these labeling laws need to change, right? It's kind of like we're left being a detective to make sure that we're buying a product that is safe and that is healthy for us. It's kind of tiring, and really, these companies can just put out the full ingredients list. Like, why don't they just do that, right? So flavorings, colorings. We also avoid DHT and BHA. Those are really terrible preservatives. And TBHQ. I don't know if I have the letters jumbled. It might be TBHQ, it might be THBQ. But it's also a preservative that is not healthy for us. And obviously, like the maltodextrin and all these things. But usually, when the product is ultra processed, you'll always see high fructose corn syrup or artificial colors. And by the way, they changed the way they're labeling artificial colors. Now they have it like in a weird, it's not red 40 anymore or yellow 5. It's like these fun sounding colors. So just watch out for those too. Now, so food, what else? With clothing, here's the thing about clothing. I know that if you're listening to this, you've heard about fabric frequencies and you're trying to stop using synthetic fabrics, right? Polyester, nylon, even conventional cotton is kind of iffy because cotton is, if I'm not mistaken, it's like 90 to 95% GMO that's grown here in the United States. And they're sprayed with so much chemicals. I did a YouTube video with my friend Catherine about it. I remember it's like they use billions. I forgot the exact number, but it's like billions in tons of pesticides are used by the cotton industry. They're very, very dirty and toxic. And conventional cotton only has, what was it, 15? I think it's 15 Hertz frequency. So it's also still unhealthy. It's just because of the way it's processed, right? Bamboo, to all the bamboo lovers out there, please don't shoot me. I'm just a messenger. Bamboo is also a very dirty fabric. Yes, bamboo itself is very sustainable, but then with the popularity of bamboo, they've been deforesting a lot of forests to plant bamboo, and the way they make the fabric is very toxic. So unless you know that it's close looped and they don't use harsh chemicals to process the bamboo and to make it into fabric, then I would avoid it. And it also is considered a synthetic fabric anyways, even though it came from plants. So myself, for my family, we stick with organic cotton, linen, and wool. Now, linen, I know they say make sure that it's organic, but it's hard to kind of find anything that's certified organic for linen because if you know, linen is a very low maintenance plant. They don't need a lot to grow, and most of them, especially if they're grown in Europe or the places where they naturally grow, then they're not using any kind of chemicals to grow. Now, wool, when they harvest the wool has naturally occurring scales on them. A lot of companies will superwash the wool, and the process is very toxic. They use a chlorine wash to get rid of the scales, and then they coat the yarn or the fabric with a polymer. A lot of times it's plastic to make it washable in your washing machine and so that it doesn't felt. Now there's companies out there that don't use a chlorine process. They use like a plasma method, and then instead of a polymer resin, they use silicone oil to make it superwash, and then to make it machine washable. So it's really just up to you what you feel comfortable using. I myself don't like the chlorine superwash process because a lot of times it will leave, it's like the dioxins and other toxic chemicals that we're trying to avoid. Interruption brought to you by 2-year-old. Anyways, so yeah, it's up to you. There's certain companies. I'll share the links in the show notes for these companies that I've reached out to and asked what the process is for their wool, and if I feel comfortable buying them for my family, then I feel comfortable recommending it to you guys. I would never ever recommend anything that we haven't used and we haven't tried. Okay, I put in a lot of research when it comes to my recommendations. I never partner with any company that doesn't align with my values. And obviously, one of those values is transparency. Yeah, I know that it can feel overwhelming, right? Like even with the clothes. And then a lot of times, all these natural fibers are more expensive than synthetics, obviously. But instead of questioning why these natural fabrics are more expensive, we should question why the synthetic materials are cheap. Obviously, synthetic materials are petroleum based, right? They're petroleum based products and they're just unhealthy for us. So think of it as an investment for your health. Just like with clean and organic foods, they're more expensive, but it's because the lesser inputs, they're not using a lot of fertilizers and not using a lot of pesticides, then their yield will be lower. So, everyone has to make a living. Also, organic certification is expensive to acquire. So it's best to go to your farmer's market and talk to the farmer, ask about their farming practices. Sometimes you would be surprised that they're growing their products better than organic. So it really, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's really just depends on your budget. Do what you can. If you can't buy all organic produce, make sure that you're checking on EWG, the Dirty Dozen, and then whatever's on the dirty dozen, prioritize those and buy those organic, because pesticides, even though they say you can wash it off the skin, but if you think about it, the plant itself, if it's sprayed on the soil, it's getting uptaken by the roots and into the leaves and into the seed, into the fruit, right? So essentially, we're also kind of like eating the pesticides. So I'd much rather really avoid that. If we try to eat in season as much as we can, and so when it's in season, it's cheaper, right? Plus, if we're trying to buy something that's imported, it will always be treated with something so that the bugs don't come into the United States, if you think about it. Now, even bananas, for example, organic bananas, they get harvested green from whatever country they came from. When they get here, someone at the grocery store is spraying a chemical in the container so that it will slowly start the ripening process. So I always cringe when I see someone rubbing the banana peels on their faces. But yeah. I know sometimes ignorance is bliss, but do we really want to live in a state of bliss and not really making sure that we're not sure that we're doing our body right when we're trying to live in the bliss of ignorance, right? I don't know if that made sense. Yeah. So I am hoping, is that all I can cover? Food, products, and clothing. Yeah, that seems like the common themes that I see, the common questions that I see in the mom groups and the crunchy groups that I'm in, especially from people just starting their journeys. They feel overwhelmed, they're feeling health anxiety. Like, oh, what? Let's talk about real quick hydroxyapatite, right? It became kind of like the darling of the holistic health space. Oh, it's a great alternative to fluoride. And then now come to find out, it depends on the form. There's a specific nano form shape that supposedly doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. There's people that are getting cavities from using hydroxypat. So I think it's really different for everybody, and it's really just about experimenting what works for you. To me, we don't really need toothpaste as humans. It's just kind of like a luxury. It gives us that fresh, clean feeling in our mouth. Back in the day, these tribes use neem barks. They chew on it, and that kind of like helps clean their teeth. So just the action of brushing alone helps clean your teeth and remove the debris that feeds the bacteria in our mouth, right? We ourselves, we rotate toothpaste. I haven't seen my kids' teeth decline in health. Is that even a term? With adding in hydroxyapatite toothpaste, but we don't really use it a lot. My daughter loves the squiggle one. It's really high in xylitol, and xylitol supposedly doesn't feed the bacteria, or like the bacteria will consume it and it makes them they can't digest it, and so they burst and die. So she loves that. Oldest one loves earth base. Yes, I know there's controversy around the heavy metals and the bentonite clay and even the Redmond salt, but we're not scared of that because anything that comes from the earth will have naturally occurring heavy metals. And to me, it's about cellular health. If our cells are healthy, then we're able to keep anything that doesn't belong in our body in check, and it's able to push it out on its own. I myself like Dr. Bright, but the toothpaste that I have from Dr. Bright doesn't have hydroxyapatite. They do have certain flavors and certain kinds that have hydroxyapatite. So if you don't want to use hydroxyapatite, you just have to read the ingredients, right? Now I'm also rotating Revitin for my oldest. He's very picky. He likes the lemon earth base, and now this Revitin one is orange mint. So he tolerates that. It doesn't contain any hydroxyapatite. It has CoQ10. Is that the right name of it? And then it has probiotics, and now they actually came out with a new flavor, and it also has prebiotics. So I'm gonna be trying that one out next. My husband also loves Earth Base, but he's very flexible, so I can just give him whatever toothpaste that I'm trying out, and he tries it. We don't use toothpaste for my 5-year-old or my 2-year-old. We just wet their toothbrush with water. I usually also spray a remineralizing mouth spray in their mouths from Dr. Bright. And we also use Elementa mouthwash. They love the bubblegum flavor. Yes, it has nano silver, but it's also high in xylitol. But we're kind of comfortable using the nano silver. They don't use it every day, and they don't swallow it. They spit it out. And I think it's kind of been a great addition to their routine, because then their mouth's pH is not acidic before they start brushing their teeth. Like, it's literally not the sugar that causes cavities. It's really our acidity in our teeth, like our mouth. If it's acidic and then we're brushing that around, then we're kind of like creating this environment for the bad bacteria to thrive. So yeah, that's my hot take on hydroxyapatite, I guess. It's funny. I guess I should do hot takes next time, huh? Feel free to comment or send me a message on my Instagram on what hot takes I should do next. But yes, we don't need to feel anxiety around getting healthy, around making changes in our lifestyle. Just really make sure that you're putting your blinders on. Know that you're doing what you can for your family. You're doing your best. Give yourself grace, and always remember that stress is also a toxin. And sometimes the stress that you have over all these changes that you need to do can kill you faster than the toxins that you're trying to avoid. So yeah, take it one day at a time. You're not behind. It's not a race. And you got this. Keep going.